BBC Radio 4, it's 5:45 and now IPM with Eddie Mair.
Good morning and welcome to IPM. Have you run through the same morning checks as me? Still alive? Check. What day is it? Check. What's the weather like? Check. Never accept a personal? Check. Have I got my mojo? Check. Losing your mojo is not just a problem for international man of mystery Austin Powers, and if playing clips from the film wasn't so expensive, by the way, we'd be doing it right now, but instead you'll have to make do with a clip of me from Monday night's PM. The big story, in the light of the revelations about Liam Fox and his best man Adam Werrity, was about lobbying. While that was being broadcast, Peter Blacker emailed in to say your interviewees are worried about how their lobbyists get heard. How the hell can an individual get heard? Well, I'm keen to hear whether among our listeners there are successful individual lobbyists. Tell us how you did it. How did it work? pm@bbc.co.uk. Almost immediately, we received an email from Sarah Knowles telling us how, along with her business partner, Andrew Thorp, she took her concept of MojoLife to the heart of government, and they did all the lobbying themselves. Here's the interview. Oh, hang on, I've just been told we can afford to play a second and a half of the Austin Powers theme. So here's our interview with Sarah and Andrew, who told me about their mojo.
I'm an ambitious, quiet storm with a mission to help people to be the best version of themselves possible.
Andrew, who are you?
I'm a frustrated performer who just has to get in front of people on a stage.
And I guess we should start with your email, Sarah. The other night we were talking about lobbying and Adam Werrity and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered, when I was just thinking about, how democracy works and how business works, and whether it's possible for, a private individual really to make waves and get access to people at the heart or the top of government without being a professional lobbyist or without being part of a huge group. Now, you've done that. Tell me how you achieved that.
It started with a crisis, which was my own personal crisis, which was that I was made redundant from a job I'd been in for 12 years in a public service. And when I was faced with redundancy, I didn't imagine for a second I wouldn't just walk into another job and find another job very easily. I did receive some outplacement support from my former employer, but it was very mechanical. It was very much about writing CVs and interview skills, and there was very little in it that was inspirational. One thing that I'd started to do, which I hadn't really dabbled in before at all, was I started to explore social media. And because I love writing, I discovered that you could write and publish on the web by way of a blog. So I started to blog a little bit, and I wrote about some of my experiences of working and teaching and travelling overseas. And one of the people who found one of my blogs was the Slovenian cultural ambassador. And he wrote to me and he said he was very interested in what I'd written and he'd like to meet me. And so I thought, well, that's quite astonishing that he's found me. And within a couple of days, I got an invitation from the Slovenian embassy in Holland asking if I would go across and speak at an event that the Slovenian embassy were hosting there.
And that experience made you start thinking about how social media, which you've been using, can help people reinvent themselves.
Absolutely, yes.
Andrew, how did you get mixed up in all of this? Because I know you spent quite a long time in the golf and leisure industry. You were a professional referee, tournament organiser. That all sounds rather cushy.
Well, you may think so, Eddie. Yes, I was involved in the golf industry for many, many years. I ran golf tournaments all over the world for 4 years. I then moved into managing commercial golf and leisure sites. But I wanted to be self-employed. And I didn't really know what else to do other than teach golf. So I taught golf for a while. I then entered into a business partnership that ultimately came to or brought me to a crossroads in my life, because the partnership kind of all went rather pear-shaped and I was left in a very difficult spot about 4 years ago.
So you were in a similar position to Sarah, but for different reasons.
For different reasons. We were both kind of at a crossroads in our lives. We hadn't met at that stage. And my rather sort of catastrophic downfall came about 4 years ago, long before I met Sarah.
How did you meet?
We met at Manchester Business School last April, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I explained to her what had happened to me. I explained that I'd subsequently become a professional speaker and a communication skills trainer.
Now, I want to ask you, obviously, about all of that. I just want to backtrack a little. You almost laughed off and joked about reaching the low point you reached. I just wonder, how long did you mope about, quite understandably, after everything went wrong?
Not for very long, because it's not really in my nature to do that. And I knew I had something to offer. I was at a very low point, financially totally collapsed. But I knew that inside I had something to offer that was marketable.
Sarah, how much did you mope around?
I don't think I've ever moped around for very long, although I was feeling very disorientated by the redundancy experience. It kind of shook me much more than I expected it would, because I'd been working for one organisation for most of my career. But I did have a very strong desire to use the situation I was in as an opportunity to do something new.
And when you both got going together in the business, what is it you essentially offer people?
Well, I think the clue is in the word mojo, because we wanted to find a name that encapsulated what we helped people do. And we thought, well, we're helping them find their mojo, whether they're an individual or a business, because individuals and businesses do lose their mojo, their spark, their inner confidence, particularly at times that we're in now, which are very challenging. So essentially what we do is we help people find their voice. We help them find who they are, what they're really good at.
When you went round the sort of places I imagine you would go round, job centres, the Department for Work and Pensions, what sort of response did you get? Because I imagine the sort of stuff you're selling, a lot of the people they come into contact with would want to buy, as it were.
Absolutely, yes. And we did have quite a few meetings with senior managers from job centres, and the response we got was, what you're doing is absolutely brilliant, but we haven't got the funding.
So how did you go about making your presence felt? How did you lobby successfully? Do you know Adam Werrity?
Doesn't everybody, Eddie?
No, we don't know him. Actually, we didn't know anybody at all in the senior civil service, or we didn't have any connections whatsoever. But we did feel very strongly that we had to step up our lobbying campaign. And so one of the things that we started with was, there was a scheme called the Innovation Launchpad, which is an initiative which is managed by the Cabinet Office, and they invited small businesses to present ideas of ways they could save the government money. Now, if you consider the cost of a person being unemployed for 3 months or more to the state, in terms of benefits.
Right, you don't have to pitch to me. You don't have to pitch to me.
Well,
what happened when you pitched to them?
Well, when we pitched to them, we did get a call from someone at the Cabinet Office to say that there was an event, a very big event, that was to be attended by all the senior civil servants, called Civil Service Live. They asked whether we would be interested in speaking at that event, and without really thinking about it, I said yes, of course we would. And then we were also asked if we'd like to exhibit at that event, which of course incurred a price, and being a small business we couldn't afford to. So we thought about what we could do to raise the funding, and we actually approached some of the private businesses in our network and asked them if they'd be willing to sponsor us. And amazingly, some of them did.
So there you are at this civil service fair, and you must be bumping into all sorts of influential people, I guess.
We were, yeah, we were.
Drop a few names. Who did you come across?
We came across Ian Watmore, Sir Gus O'Donnell.
Sir Gus O'Donnell?
We did. We met the Cabinet Secretary, and we met Peter Jones from Dragon's Den.
So you've contacted a dragon, the Cabinet Secretary. What happened as a result of just being able to sort of lobby in person, as it were?
Well, we had a chat with Sir Gus O'Donnell, and he suggested that we speak to various people, and he suggested some names of senior civil servants.
He didn't say Adam Werrity, did he, at any point?
No, he didn't. He didn't.
You go on.
Yeah, so he asked us to contact various people, which we followed up with, and as a result we were asked to chair another round table in Whitehall, which we did a couple of weeks ago. which was all about employee engagement and how to remotivate staff when their colleagues have left recently through redundancy and when there's a lot of change and uncertainty in an organisation. And then we have recently been given opportunity to present our idea as something we can do to support career transition for civil servants leaving the service in the next few years.
You're clearly a great advertisement for, if you like, personal lobbying. Do you think you were lucky?
I think the conversation we're having now is an example of how you can create your own luck. It's just a case of spotting things that others would miss.
And so to finish, I suppose where we started on Monday with the lobbying story and people paying lots of money for access. Do you have a view on all of that? Obviously, you see this through the prism of your own experience, but in terms of influencing people in power, in terms of the individual having their voice heard, do you think there's anything shifty about the lobbying that goes on, or is it just part of business? And maybe if your business grows hugely, you'll be paying lobbyists yourself in due course.
No, I don't think I would ever advocate that. I think I would always advocate that if you find your voice, if you have the confidence and you have a bit of awareness about how to create opportunities for yourself, there's no need to pay lobbyists.
Sarah Knowles and Andrew Thorp on the power of Mojo.